So first of all, thank you all for coming. I don't know how many of you are here for the first time. I actually came here for the first time in 1966 as a midshipman on the USS Hornet, which was just over in Alameda. So this has been an institution, as the General said, since 1946, and we're very pleased that today, rather than having a talk that's totally focused on the military, that we get to talk a little bit about baseball with a Marine Corps flavor. So tonight, what I thought we'd do is, I'm the This Is Your Life guy, you know. So we'll talk a little bit about Dusty's early life, his time in the Marine Corps, the minor leagues, his time playing with the Dodgers and other teams, including the Oakland A's, and then his managerial career. You know, I'm older than Dusty by a year, but Dusty has a 49-year career in baseball. So 19 as a player, maybe I'm wrong with the mathematics or the arithmetic, but 19 as a player, I think 26 as a manager, and that doesn't include things that went on in between. An incredible, really incredible career, and we're very fortunate to have him here. So let's start by going back to not Richmond, where you were born, but Carmichael. You grew up there and were played high school sports. You were a four-sport athlete.
Correct.
But I understand baseball was not your favorite sport. So tell us a little bit about what you intended to do and how you got into baseball.
Well, first, my dad, you know, I'm from Riverside originally, and my dad worked at March Air Force Base as a civilian, and my dad was a veteran in the Navy in World War II, and met my mom, stayed out there in California. My mom's from Indio, California, and my dad's from Lakeland, Florida. Mm-hmm. And so I loved all sports. And Bobby Bonds was my hero because Bobby Bonds, Barry's father, was on my dad's Little League team. And so the reason I played all four sports is because I wanted to be the next Bobby Bonds. And Bobby is 4 years older than me. I was there the day Bobby worked out with the scout. This is right before the draft. So Bobby called me and he said, "Hey man, you want to come shag for us?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "For what?" He goes, "The Giants are scouting me." So I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah." So I'm running them down and I'm doing this and that, seeing if the guy's looking at me. And I said, "Hey, you want to see me hit?" He goes, "No, son, it's getting dark. I got to go." And so I never heard from the guy again, Evo Pusas. I'll never forget his name. Uh-huh. And my dad moved to Sacramento in my junior year of high school. And I was saddened because I was supposed to be like the big man on campus and stuff, take Bobby's spot. And so, but that was one of the best things that happened to me because I loved to hunt and fish, and we were raised on the river. I was about 2 miles from the American River. Mm-hmm. And so I could go fishing every day and go pheasant hunting and stuff with my dad. And so anyway, I love basketball. And basketball almost into my career once I signed. I was playing basketball in the winter. My mom told me, quit playing basketball. And my parents got divorced my senior year of high school. I was oldest of 5. And so the economic spokes were off the reel. My dad worked 2 jobs for 36 years. And, all of a sudden, I had to make a decision. And I prayed on it the night before the draft. And I said, "Lord, whatever happens, don't let me get drafted by the Atlanta Braves." And I said, "Lord, you didn't hear me." Because that was the time, that was some serious times of civil unrest and riots and Vietnam and anti-this and anti-that. And Atlanta was kind of the mecca for the civil rights movement. And but that was also the best thing that happened to me because the day I signed in Dodger Stadium, Hank Aaron promised my mother that he would take care of me as if I was his son. And so he took care of me, made me go to church, he made me stay out of the streets, he made me do all the things that young guys away from home wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. I love playing ball. I loved all sports, but I didn't want to play baseball, but that was also what I should have done.
You know, one of the things that's interesting is Dusty was drafted in the 26th round. And in those days, and this was early in the draft era, because the draft didn't come into play until 1965. But in those days, the draft was like 50 rounds. So each team was drafting, you know, dozens of players. Today, the draft is 20 rounds.
I wouldn't even been drafted.
And so, a little editorial, I think one of the problems with the game today is it's become too efficiency conscious. And when you cut the draft to 20 rounds, there are a lot of people, and look, Dusty would have figured out a way to emerge, but there are a lot of kids that don't get the chance that they would have gotten years ago because the game has gotten so focused on the economics, and the kids that get harmed the most are the kids that never get a chance to play professional ball. Anyway.
But Sandy, the kids that get harmed are the kids that are the late bloomers.
Absolutely.
You know, because when I signed, I was 5'11", 172 pounds. And then I grew. I grew in a lot of ways. But, you know, the kids that are drafted today are the kids that are either the can't misses that miss sometimes, or either the men child that are at 16, they're fully grown men. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the guys I grew up with, man, they were shaving and stuff, and I was shaming in the shower. I'm like, man, I'm showering with men. And so, like, yeah, a lot of these kids now, that's why the independent leagues are so big. You know, even though they don't sign many out of the independent leagues, they sign a few. But, you know, there are some kids out there that I'm hoping that they have a chance like I had a chance to end up being something.
Yeah. No, Dusty's absolutely right. The kids that are late bloomers, develop late physically, haven't played a lot of baseball, but great athletes, they don't get the opportunity today that they would have gotten years ago, because there's no room for them to develop at the college level, because the colleges are looking at kids to contribute right now. And that's true right across the board, including professional baseball. But in any event, so 1967, you sign a contract, and amazingly, Dusty was in the big leagues at the end of the following year, like 1 year later. And it was a cup of coffee, as they say,
yeah.
But it's amazing that you got there that quickly.
Well, you know, there was a general manager that wasn't afraid to stick his neck out for me because he liked my talent. And, you know, his name is Paul Richards, and, you know, he was kind of a long shot guy. I mean, this guy, if he thought you could play, it really didn't matter what age you were. And I was supposed to go to Santa Clara to play basketball. And so when I went down there for my visitation, there's a coach, Sal Taormina. Coach Williams said, you know, this guy says he can play baseball. And so Sal says, okay. He worked me out. And then I found out later that, you know, he said, you know, the kid's okay. And so, and so the next year when I go back, I played one of my first games at Candlestick Park, and Coach Carroll Wisdom tells the story that, hey man, are you watching the game? He goes, no. He said, remember that kid you said was so-so? He's playing center field today.
So this is about the time when you joined the Marine Corps Reserve.
Correct.
1968. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Like, so what was your first day like?
Well, actually what happened was I was, the Braves said, I'm tired of you missing spring training, because I hit like 340 my first summer in baseball, you know, with no spring training. And so Bill Lucas, you know, who was a lieutenant in the Army in the past, you know, he goes, Dusty, you got to go to school. Well, I was going to school because Vietnam was hot, and if you didn't carry 15 units per semester, you were drafted, you know, in between, or if you had any Fs or any incompletes. And so he goes, I want you to join the National Guard. And I said, Mr. Lucas, I don't want to join National Guard, because National Guard was when, you know, that's who they were calling out to protect the cities during the riots.
Yeah.
So he goes, well, you got to join the Marines. And I says, okay, I can do that. And so, like I was competitive, and they told me that Marines need a few good men. I said, okay, I'm in that. And then they said, for every guy in the Army, every soldier in the Army, takes 6 Army to 1 Marine. And I said, okay, I like that ratio too, So, and then they told us when we got there that there's one soldier here that was going to be the dress blue honor man in boot camp. And I said, well, we might as well cut the chase and cut the 6 weeks and just give it to me now. And so that's, I was pretty. I don't want to say I was cocky. I was kind of confident.
Yeah, but that's what happened, right?
But anyway, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot in those 6 years. I don't know if how many of my buddies or if it's for everybody, but it was for me, and it taught me teamwork. It taught me to get along with everybody, no matter what race or color or religion or creed you were. There were a lot of guys that, a lot of Marines that uneducated. There were some that were highly educated. We had a lawyer in our platoon, Smock, who's still my buddy. Big Bob Spence went to Santa Clara, and he's the guy who showed me around for my visitation when I was supposed to go down there. So, we had all kind of guys at that time in our platoon.
Yeah. So, 68 to 74, 68 to, let's say, 71, you're in the minor leagues with Atlanta. You're in the Carolinas. You're in Virginia, Florida. Tell us about that experience at the minor league level. And
well,
this was,
I mean, it was different, especially a kid from California. I mean, there were times when I couldn't go eat with the guys on the team, with the white guys on the team. I couldn't get off the bus sometimes. We couldn't live, where the other guys on the team lived. Most of the blacks and Latins had to live together. But, I found a way to, live, survive, and still had a, good time. And while I was there in the South, coming from California, you think everybody with a Southern accent, has to be in the Ku Klux Klan or something. But it wasn't so, because I met some of the best people that I've ever met, white and black, with a long accent this long, that were genuine people. Yeah. And I had a good time, back then. The only thing is that it was hard for me to, I was Lance Corporal out of boot camp, but it was hard for me to get any rank because I was transferring to different units all the time. Uh-huh. Like in Shreveport, I was in a MP unit, riot control unit. And that summer we had brig duty in Camp Pendleton for Vietnam, war criminals. And then when I was in Richmond, I was in a 50 caliber howitzer unit. And so wherever I was playing, I was in different, units. Sacramento, I was in a motor transport, which was my MOS 3516. And so the only thing I was telling Sandy, I was great. I aced the written test. But the practical application, I don't like banging my knuckles up against it, and I don't like greasing my fingernails. And so I
know that from the sweatbands.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I had a buddy that was real good. He was from Altoona, PA. A country kid couldn't say his ABCs. I taught him his ABCs in boot camp, and then when we got to Camp Lejeune, he helped me, with the practical application. I helped him with the, with the scholastic.
Yeah. So, 72, you have your first big year with the Braves, and tell us about 1973 when Hank Aaron hits his 715th, and you're in the on-deck circle.
Well, that was. I mean, Hank told me he's going to get it over with. I mean, we were with Hank every day. And Hank promised my mom he'd take care of me, but really, at that time, we were taking care of Hank. Because he was, getting a lot of mail, a lot of hate mail. Ralph Garr and I were my roommate, who's from the South. He went to Grambling College in Grambling, Louisiana. And so, we were in charge of making Hank comfortable and making him laugh. And that was a bad time for Hank. He should have been having a great time, but he wasn't, because not only was he going for the record, but he was getting divorced at the same time. And, I was closer in age to his kids than I was to Hank. And I'd go over to Hank's house and, I'd play basketball with the kids, with Hanky and Larry, and then I'd play jump ropes or jacks with the girls, with his daughters. Yeah, and so I was kind of like their big brother. But, that was a wonderful time for me. I've never seen a man so focus and concentrate on a daily basis, and he played it, and he did it in pain. He had a bad sciatica, he had a bad back, he had a bad knee, and Hank's the guy who taught me above all how to play and think away pain, and you have to got to find a way to play. You got to find a way to go to work. And I never saw my dad, like I said, in my whole life, I don't think my dad got sick. And I'm trying to figure out how these old dudes never got the flu, they never got sick, but they always went to work. I mean, a lot of you guys here can probably identify with that. And especially that generation, I'm just hoping that I could be a chip off my dad's block.
I'm going to interject another Hank Aaron story, unrelated to Dusty, but my father was in the Air Force, and he was stationed at an Air Force base near Columbia, South Carolina in the late 50s. To give you an idea, our base had the only integrated Little League in the entire state.
Wow.
But in any event, in those days, teams would train in Florida, and then they'd take a train up the East Coast, and they'd play games along the way. And so the Braves, my favorite team, Hank Aaron, my favorite player, were coming to Columbia, South Carolina. So my dad and I went up to watch. And in those days, in the minor leagues, there wasn't any real security. So after the game, I'm following Hank Aaron to try to get his autograph. And I follow him out of the stadium. I mean, it's a rickety old stadium. I follow him out of the stadium, and he gets in a cab. And the window was down. I reached in and said, "Mr. Aaron, would you sign my ball?" And he said, "Yes." And I looked in the cab, and there was Hank Aaron, Billy Bruton, who was the center fielder, and Wes Covington, who was the left fielder. All three the black players on the Milwaukee Braves. And it wasn't until later that I realized they were taking a cab to go someplace else. Mm-hmm. So now fast forward to the year 2000. So that was 1958. So 42 years later, I get a call from the president of my alma mater, Dartmouth College. Huge baseball fan. And he says to me, "I want to give a ball player an honorary degree." And I say, "How about Hank Aaron?" So in 2000, Dartmouth College gave Hank Aaron an honorary degree.
That's great.
Mostly in thanks for that autograph back in 1958. But in any event, just a great player, and I know a great friend of Dusty's. So anyway, Dusty, in 75, so you have some really good years with the Braves, but in 75, you asked for a trade. And you get traded to the Dodgers.
No, I asked for a trade. He asked me, had I ever been to Cleveland? I'm serious. Twice. And I asked Hank, how come every time I ask for a trade, they ask me have I ever been to Cleveland? He said, you don't want to go to Cleveland, son.
But they gave up some pretty good players for you.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, like 5.
Right.
And Jimmy Wynn, Jerry Royce,
Lee Lacy.
Lee Lacy, Tom Paciorek. I mean, some really good players from those days.
Yeah.
But anyway, you go to Los Angeles and you go to the World Series 3 times.
But first, I had a terrible year that first year.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I hurt my knee playing basketball like my mother had always warned me about. And I got traded. I hurt my knee a week after the trade. And I couldn't say anything, and I kind of made up a story.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out how I could assimilate this injury. And I was running my dog, and and I leaped over this creek, and he stayed behind, and so I landed wrong. And so the trainer, Bill Bueller, whom I love, I mean, he's passed. He asked me, I told him the story. He goes, did your dog get an assist? So I had to fess up, and I told him how I heard it, and he goes, okay. He said, don't lie to me again. And this is one of my rules with my players. Don't lie to me because see, then you don't give me a chance to understand, because there's a good chance I might have done or tried what you're about to try. So that was a lesson that I learned, with him. Told him the truth, and they casted me from here to here in the winter, and Dr. Bill ran me up and down the stairs from the Dodger. You know how high Dodger Stadium is? Anybody ever been to Dodger Stadium? We ran from the ground, from the field all the way up, and 2 or 3 times, and he saved my career.
Yeah.
And then after that, the next year, I had a good year. We went to the playoffs, World Series, and so after that, they loved me, but boy, they hated me that first year.
So you go to the World Series in 77, 78. You lost in 6 games each of those years, but then you get back to the World Series in 81, and you won it that year.
Yep. Well, to the Yankees.
Yeah.
See, I don't know about you guys, but I don't care nothing about the Yankees. See, there might be some Yankee fans there, I'm telling you. But see, I was a Dodger fan coming up, and Tommy Davis was my favorite player in Riverside. And so Tommy wore number 12. The reason I wear number 12 to this day is because I wanted to be like Tommy Davis. I always had these heroes. And how many kids end up, playing their position of the hero, batting in order, and wearing their jersey? And so, like, I had quite a story. And so it was, amazing that I made it actually this far, because I was trying to self-destruct, but, the Lord wouldn't let me self-destruct. And I always told people, I always think I had a guardian angel, taking care of me, all of my life. And I ended up meeting Tommy Davis, ended up being one of my best friends. And, that's my story.
So I'm not a big fan of the Dodgers myself after 1988, but
yeah, but Sandy, they always beat the Dodgers when I was a kid. Then they beat the Dodgers when I was on the Dodgers. And then they beat us like 2 years, and we finally beat them in 81. And what bothers me about the Yankee fans is that the Yankee fans tell me they're still mad at me because we won 1 and they won 2. I think Yankee fans are greedy.
So the only other thing I want to bring up about your time with the Dodgers is the invention of the high five. So history credits you with creating the high five with a guy named Glenn Burke, who was a very interesting guy and player in his own right. But
right.
Tell us how that happened. Number one, is it true? Did you?
People ask me that all the time. And actually, I had 29 home runs, and there were 3 guys that had the 30 already: Reggie Smith, Steve Garvey, and Ron Say. So I'd have been the 4th guy to hit 30 on the same team in the same year. And so Reggie Smith told, it was a 4-game series, Reggie Smith told J.R. Richard, who I hit probably 100 against in my whole career, that I was going to hit the 30th home run off of him. And so there were some guys gambling over the dugout. I could see them. And so first I got a hit, and then I foul tip one, and then I came back to the dugout, and I was talking to myself. I said, man, I don't think I'm gonna do it. And so Tommy Lasorda, he heard me. He's like, Dusty, he said, the children of Israel were by the Red Sea, and they believed in the Lord. I said, Tommy, okay, man, you gotta believe that. Tommy, I believe, okay? So next time up, the ball looked like it stopped, and I hit it over the center field fence. And then when I came in, Glenn Burke, he held his hand up, and all I did was reciprocate. I didn't do anything. Glenn did it. And so, but everybody wants to give it to me. But I tried to patent it, but they wouldn't patent it. I tried to make patent it. I tried to get a little money out of it.
You sound like Bill Belichick.
I know. That's okay.
So, you are with the Dodgers, and at the end of the '83 season, you become a free agent, right?
No, almost.
Almost. Well,
I
in
had
any
2 years left on my contract. There was a big dispute.
All right. So
and Sandy tried to.
all I know
trade for
is
me.
that myself and maybe Wally, who's here tonight, and a couple of other of us, flew to San Diego to try to talk you into coming to the Oakland A's. This was
Jerry Kapstein.
Pardon me?
With Jerry Kapstein, my agent.
With Jerry Kapstein, who was, and Bob Teef, and a couple of other. Anyway, so we're there. We're saying all the right things, and Dusty signs with the Giants. That's like
No. Hey, listen. Okay. Now, Sandy, he almost got that right. Now, I didn't quite sign with the Giants. I turned down the trade with the A's.
okay.
No, because I was supposed to be.
I'm the semantics guy. Okay.
I know, but I thought that I was a 10-5, so I was in charge. As it turned out, I wasn't in charge, and so then I didn't accept that trade, and so the Dodgers released me because I didn't accept the trade, and then San Francisco claimed me, and I didn't accept that trade either, and so I went back home, and then all of a sudden I get a call on April Fools from Frank Robinson. And so he goes, hey, man, you got to come join the Giants. I says, is this an April Fool? Because the Lasorda had just played April Fools on me before, told me I was traded to Cleveland again. And so I thought it was April Fools. So I go to Giants one year. I had no spring training and everything. And we terrible team. I didn't hardly play. And then next thing I know, in spring training, Sandy trades for me again.
Yes.
So I'm the only guy that Sandy traded for. Am I the only one? No, maybe Ricky. How many times
Ricky,
you traded for Ricky?
3 or 4 there. Yeah, 3 or 4. So I have to tell a little story about Dusty, and so I don't know whether Dusty knows today why we even wanted him on our team.
No, I don't.
So I'm going to tell you. Okay? So most of you have probably seen the movie Moneyball or read the book. And it's about analytics and their application to baseball and player evaluations. And that book came out in the 2000s, but we started doing this in the early 1980s. We hired a consultant. We didn't tell anybody we had a consultant. But in those days, analytics was really more of a theory than anything else, because there wasn't any data that you could actually analyze, except what was in the paper, like the box scores. But the theory was that player evaluations were more closely related. Newer analytical evaluations were more closely correlated to winning than the traditional statistics. So like batting average. Batting average is basically irrelevant to winning and losing. On base percentage and slugging percentage turn out to be really critical. And so Moneyball originally was about evaluating players. It wasn't about getting them cheap. It was about a new way of evaluating players. So Dusty Baker, we tried to get after the 83 season, and we traded for him after the 84 season. And the reason is twofold. One is that he had the stature that he had in the game and the leadership that he would bring to our team, which had among its ne'er-do-wells guys like Dave Kingman and a few others. But the second reason was because he had with the Giants, even though he had a terrible year, he said, he had a .387 on-base percentage. And if you think on-base percentage today, like I think Juan Soto has the highest on-base percentage in the game today, and it's at like .401. So .387 is an incredible, really high. And so Dusty, although he doesn't like analytics,
I didn't say that.
was one of the first Moneyball players in the game.
Okay, I'm gonna start using that. I'm gonna have to use that. Thank you, Sandy.
There you go. And as it turns out, in '85, he ended up with an OPS of 799. And in baseball, if you're at 800 or around 800, it's really good. His on-base percentage went down a little in '85 when he came to us, but his slugging percentage came way up, and his OPS was like 799. So he had a really good year for us. And the reason we tried to get him for 2 years and finally succeeded was because of what we saw in his on-base percentage and slugging as opposed to anything else. So Dusty's one of those forerunners of players today. And one thing I will always remember, this is what Dusty said to me, and we'll find out whether he believes it or not, because it might have been just idle talk. But I remember what he said to me once, because we were trying to get our players to be more patient at the plate and get into the count and get a good pitch to hit. You hear that all the time. Dusty said to me once, I almost always spit on the first 2 pitches, and I'm almost never worse than 1-1.
True that.
You remember saying that?
Yeah, I remember saying that.
So, and that probably was one of the things that persuaded us, because again, he was somebody who was a leader, and this is the approach that we were trying to teach in those days, which is now, adopted throughout baseball today. So, in any event, a Moneyball guy right here.
And let me tell you about Sandy. Sandy was the first non-player that I had in my career as a general manager, because all the other ones that I had were former players. I don't know if Sandy played or not, but no, I don't mean
I'm not sure this is a compliment.
No. But I'm serious. I had Al Campanis in L.A. I had Speck Richardson and Tom Haller in San Francisco, and then I had with the Braves I had Eddie Robinson and Bill Lucas. And then when first day I walked into Sandy's office, I asked him. I says, who's that? I thought that might have been his brother. He had a picture of himself in the uniform. And I asked him, who's that? He goes, that's me.
Okay.
I mean, he looked like the poster boy for the Marine Corps. He was looking good. and I knew right then that, we had a good man. And
well, in any event, so we've now been here a few minutes, and we've covered only the first 19 years of his career. So let's segue to your managerial career.
Cool.
So you retired with the A's was your last duty.
Yes.
As a player in '86, and you went to work as a coach for the Giants.
I went to work as a stockbroker first.
All right, well.
In '87. And the crash, I did the crash.
You ended up with the Giants at some point.
Yes.
As a coach, and then you became their manager in '93, and were there for 10 years.
Yeah, I was a coach for 5 and a manager for 10, and Al Rosen and his assistant, Bob Kennedy, whom you know. Well, Bob Kennedy was the coach of the Braves when I signed with the Braves, and he was responsible for me really signing with the Braves. And I didn't know it, but I went to a winter meeting, and I saw Mr. Kennedy came over to me. He goes, Al Rosen would like to talk to you. And I said, about what? He goes, you know, wants to talk to you about a job. And I said, well, I have a job. And he goes, about coaching. I said, I don't really want to coach. And he said, well, just listen to him. And at that time, I was getting divorced, like my dad had gotten divorced, and my mom when I signed the first time. And so I said, well, I want to go back to Northern California. And so Al, I want to talk to Mr. Rosen. And Mr. Rosen said it'd take 5 years to get the player out of you. I think you'd be a fine field manager someday. And so I said, okay, I'll give it 5 years. And then 5 years and 5 years and 2 days after he told me that, then I was named the manager of the Giants.
Well, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about those 10 years, just because as an Oakland A alumnus.
Why don't we talk about
the only real high point.
Why don't we talk about when y'all beat us like to death? What year is that, 89?
Yeah, that was sometime prior. But let's talk about the one sort of singular event that took place during your entire tenure, and that was when your kid almost got run over at home plate.
Well, you know, my mother, see, I had cancer that winter. I had prostate cancer. And my son was 2 years old at the time, and I was afraid that, you know, anybody that's been through cancer treatment, when they tell you you got cancer and every time you go to the doctor, you don't know if it's back or not. And so my mom, I was trying to give him as much as I could in case something happened to me. And so I was trying to give, my mom says, you know, I don't think he should be bat boy today. I said, why, Mom? She goes, well, I got a bad feeling. So I said, okay, Mom. So I said, Mom, he's done this 100 times. So that day he goes out there to try to get Kenny Lofton's bat, because I had all these bat boys out there and they were getting their father's bats. J.T. Snow's son was getting his bats, or Sean Dunston's son was getting his bats, whoever was at bat. And my son asked me, he goes, Dad, you don't have a bat? And I said, oh, not really. He goes, you don't do nothing. He said, all you do is just sit there. And I said, he's 3 years old. And so Kenny Lofton was his designated bat. And so Kenny hits the ball, and this other kid that we didn't know was there. The kid runs out, Darren beats him to the bat, and I went to grab him, and it was too late. And so it was, you know, they saved my son. But the worst part about it was the phone rang in my office after the game. And it was my mom. And I knew it was my mom because the phone, I bet that's Mom. And I said, well, I better answer it. And she's like, Dusty. And you know, she called me Dusty, but when she said, Dusty, that meant I'm in trouble. And so she said, I told you not to, you don't listen to me. I said, Mom, I got to go. The press is here. She said, oh, no. you tell them to wait. And so, but the only thing is, to this day, my son, you know, he's the only one that doesn't remember anything about the occurrence.
Well, at the time, I was working at Major League Baseball, and I was responsible for, like, baseball operations. And I'm watching that on TV, and I'm going, holy, you know, it's like, so now we have the Darren Baker rule in baseball. You got to be like 14, or you can't be 3. Let's put it that way.
But I had but Sandy, I had different
good judgment there.
I know, Sandy. It was that other kid's fault for running out there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and he was 5, for God's sake. So, all right. Anyway, so Dusty, 26 years. You've managed the Giants, the Cubs. You were there for the Cubs, Cincinnati.
Yes.
And the Astros. And Nationals, the Nats, yep, 2 years. So a lot of people don't know this. Dusty is the only manager, I think, still in history to take 5 different teams and win a division championship. That's Now, I got to admit, in 2000, when was it that you went to the World Series against the Angels?
Oh, 2002.
2002. So I have to admit that, again, my A's ties, I wasn't really rooting for Dusty in 2002, but I was in 22.
That's because you didn't have a team. Sandy, how could you root against me?
Well, look, it wasn't personal. It was institutional.
I wasn't really rooting for the A's either,
Anyway, tell us about winning the World Series.
Well, I mean, that was something that I just knew was going to happen. I mean, sooner or later. I mean, my dad had always talked about you have to persevere, and I was about the end of my rope persevering, and because I had been there quite a few times, and that was a good feeling. That was a great feeling, and my son now was a young man. My wife was there, and I just wish that my dad could have seen it, because see, my dad, when we lost to the Angels in 2002, he told me, he said, son, I don't know, if you didn't win that one, I don't know if you'll ever win one. But, he wasn't being negative or facetious, but, that generation, I'm sure there's a few guys in here, there's certain things that become positive out of negative motivation. I mean, you can't use negative motivation now with the young people, because they'll sit down on you. It's like, my generation's like, hey, I'll show him, but now you can't use negative motivation because it really doesn't work. And so I don't know, positive motivation works all the time either. I don't know which one works all the time. But, that was my motivating factor. The year before, we had lost to the Braves. But in my heart, I felt that Hank might have been pulling for the Braves, because that was Hank's team that we lost to. And so I said, okay, to myself, I wasn't talking to Hank or nothing, but I was like, because he's gone already, but I was like, hey, Hank, okay, man, that's cool this time. Next time you got to root for us. And so I just knew that was our turn. The only thing is, I always said that if I won one, then I was going to win two. And I wanted to really, really win that next year in 2023. And which is one reason why I accepted the job as my last managerial assignment to manage the Nicaraguan baseball team for the World Baseball Classic, because I still got to win two. Now, I don't know how we're going to beat Dominican, and I don't know how we're going to beat Venezuela, but that's my goal, to win one more time, then go home.
Well, listen, I'm sure we've gone, I don't have a watch up here that I can read, so I'm assuming we're, around 40 minutes, and we're going to have some questions. But I want to just say, in closing this part of the program, that this series is called Leading from the Front. And if you remember watching Dusty in the dugout, he's always in the front. And I'm sure that some of that came from his Marine Corps training, but some of it came from his father, and some of it came from his experience. But always somebody who was out front, always somebody who was concerned about his players, and somebody that incredibly respected throughout baseball, I can assure you. And the other thing I can assure you is that when he becomes eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2 years, when the committee rotates and considers Dusty and his era, he will be in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about it. So if we can take questions from the audience. I think we have a microphone somewhere.
Right there.
Yeah, okay, Sandy, we haven't heard anything about your Marine Corps time, so could you tell us about that, please?
My Marine Corps time?
Yes, sir.
I graduated, I was in Naval ROTC, graduated in 1969, went to basic school, and from basic school went to language school at Monterey for Vietnamese. Was transferred to Vietnam in 1970 and was a platoon commander, company commander, and then an intelligence officer. Came back from Vietnam and was the platoon commander of the silent drill team at 8th and I. Traveled all over the country, putting on football halftimes and various things, and then left active duty and went to law school. But tremendous experience. And one of the reasons we ultimately came to San Francisco, the Bay Area, was because of the drill team, and we travel all over the country, and we were billeted on one occasion at Treasure Island. And if you've ever been on Treasure Island and run around the island and look back at San Francisco, it's absolutely incredible view and sort of enchanting in a way. And so my wife and I decided this was the place to come, and that this was our home for several decades. So anyway, thanks for asking.
Yep. And thank you for sharing that with us. One more question.
So I was in the unit with Dusty in Sacramento in the early 70s, and I can tell you he is one of the nicest persons you would ever want to meet. There were two incidences. Dusty, we had our 2 weeks summer camp in San Diego, the year that Hank Aaron hit 715, and we went down to the stadium for batting practice, and we looked in the dugout, and we said, "Dusty, would you get Hank Aaron's autograph for us?" And Dusty said, "Mr. Aaron doesn't like to be disturbed before." It was total respect, no disrespectful love for our. 20 years later, when Dusty was managing the Giants, we went to spring training, and I went down, and I saw him come out of the dugout, and I said, "Dusty, you and I were in the Marines in Sacramento." 20 years later, he didn't remember me from anybody, and he says, "Hey man, how are you? How's your family?" Treated me like a long-lost brother. He's just the nicest person you'd ever want to meet.
All right, thank you.
That is outstanding.
Yep.
I've got another question right here.
Dusty, congrats on an awesome career.
Thank you.
You bet. I know you had over 2,100 wins, led 5 different teams, won a World Series. I was looking at your stats just now, and I noticed you were ejected 11 times as a manager.
That's not bad.
Not bad. Maybe you could tell us about one of those that is memorable.
Oh, man. Well, number one, whenever I got kicked out, my mother would call me, and she would tell me, "Don't be cursing on TV." And I'm like, "No, Mom, I wasn't cursing." And she goes, "I read your lips." And and one time, my most memorable one was when I called umpire Ed Montague, whom I really respect a lot, and he said something, and I said something back, and then I called him a MF, and man, I was gone immediately. And then he tells a story, and I felt bad because I liked him. And so I'm sitting there in my office, game ends, so I go over to the umpire's room. Well, he had told the other umpires, he goes, "Just watch." He goes, "In about 2 minutes, there's going to be a knock on the door, and it's going to be Dusty. And he's going to come apologize to me." So 2 minutes, they open the door. He goes, "I told you he was going to come."
I have to add to that story just a bit. With Oakland, early in our days under the Haas family, we had a manager who not only never got ejected, he made it a rule that he would never argue with an umpire. And so one day I went up to him, his name was Steve Boros, and I said, look, Steve, you understand that this is part of the theater of the game. You know, this is part of the entertainment. And by the way, you're there representing the players, you're representing the fans who are frustrated with this. So it's not like we expect you to get the decision overturned. This is like, you know, you got to do it. No. I said, Steve, tonight, go home, stand in front of a mirror, and practice. This is a true story.
Getting ejected.
Practice arguing, you know, and see what happens. But he never, in his entire tenure, he never argued with an umpire. He never got thrown out. And it was one of the reasons he got fired. So
He didn't last long.
no, he didn't.
He was at our meeting in San Diego.
He was the manager at that time.
Yes, he
yeah.
was.
Oh, we have a,
Those days. And this was a bunch of us, not just me. And we had some great managerial candidates when Billy Martin left the A's. Jim Leyland, who's in the Hall of Fame, just a number of great candidates. And we hired the manager based on the fact that he had a literature degree from the University of Michigan.
Really?
Yeah, very impressive. Anyway, so that was that.
Mr. Baker, it's been a joy watching you throughout the years. So, quick question. As an A's fan, we watched you take over the leadership of the Astros during such a difficult and controversial time. We watched you mentor and lead these men. Can I say Altuve? No? Okay. Anyway, we watched you mentor these men through some
Altuve,
very
matter of fact.
difficult times. And
Yes.
we were always on the other end of the field watching what would take place. How did you lead this team forward and really help these men, you know, maintain what they were up against with this fan base?
Well, that's a good question. Number one, I wasn't part of the whole scandal, which made it easier on me. Number two, that was a COVID year, so it made it a lot easier when we didn't have any fans in the stands. You know, we just had my dog and my son, the cutouts right behind the dugout. And then number three, I called upon, some of the things that I had learned, in the Marines about leadership. And, being fair and honest, and if I ask you a question, you come straight with me. And then lastly, I remember I was at a banquet with Hank Aaron and the great Bill Russell. And I asked, and I didn't like the Celtics either because they always beat the Lakers when I was a kid. So I asked Bill, Big Bill, I said, hey man, what was the secret of your team's successes? And he told me, he said that, we loved each other. And I mean, here's Bill Russell, this guy was like, looked mean all the time and big and menacing. And he told me that, we loved each other. And I said, well, if that's good enough for you, that's good enough for me and my team. And so, I tried to practice as much love and understanding as possible, try to take guys out, fishing on off days. You try to learn about guys, away from work, because very few people are the same in the office as they are away from work. And so this is some of the things that I try to get to know their mothers, their fathers, their kids' names, and Lasorda is good at that. I mean, he knew every kid's name, and just try to get to know them, and just ask for forgiveness of society and America, and ask them to ask for forgiveness. And so everybody talks about forgiveness, but I think that's the thing we do, the least amount of, and that's what I was asking everybody else for these guys.
Well, I can't say enough. Again, leadership from the front, leader from the front. Dusty, you exemplify it all. The tenets of the Marine Corps, honor, courage, and commitment, you exemplify it all. You've brought baseball history alive. You're a living legend. From all of us to you and to Sandy, thank you very much. A round of applause.
Thank you, bud. All right. All right.